Lindenhurst is a village of 27,000 on the south shore of Long Island, New York. These are the people who grew up there and their stories. Everyone I know is from Lindenhurst.
My wife, since COVID, she's been teaching voice lessons online through Zoom, and it's always trouble. She could be on it for 2 hours and then have to reboot the whole computer. It's like a complete nightmare.
Yeah. Have you ever taught drums on Zoom?
No, it's got to. I couldn't imagine. She's doing piano. We've kind of, and voice. We figured that out.
Yeah.
But it's rough.
Yeah, drums. It's like lag, latency, and
even just getting the audio to hear it. Like playing audio like that through Zoom is such a nightmare.
Yep.
In itself. Yeah.
We're looking at there's an app called Zencaster or something like that where it records the video and audio. We were going to test that to see if it's better, but we haven't done it yet.
This one's going to be all audio, so.
All right. Well, I got a face for audio.
Cool. Let's bring it back to the beginning. What are your family origins in Lindenhurst?
Oh, I grew up 2 blocks south of Montauk Highway on South Broadway. We actually went to elementary school together at OLPH.
Yes.
We go as far back as 2 kids could probably go back.
I have a picture somewhere of us in kindergarten. We're making like caramel corn or something. I'm going to find that and post it up with your episode.
I have it framed right here. Hold on one second.
Okay, cool.
But my family, my grandmother came from Italy to New York in 1955. I think they moved to Lindenhurst in the 70s. I was born in 81. And, my mother and uncles graduated from Lindenhurst, and I did in class of 99 with you.
You did go to OLPH with me for a while, but you left, 3rd or 4th grade?
I left after 5th grade.
5th grade, okay.
I struggled so hard in that environment, like just the strictness, the uniforms, it just wasn't for me, so I was kicked over to the public school in 6th grade.
So that was your own choice?
Me and my mom. It's more her choice. I was a little young, but she was like, let's go to public school.
Right. Cool. So what are some of your first memories just about growing up?
Growing up, as I listened to your podcast with Pat, which brought up a lot of memories from high school, which was pretty cool. But, from middle school, that I remember the walk home, it was such a different place back then. You walk by the old movie theater where we used to have movies for $1.99 and the bowling alley and, all that whole thing.
Warner's Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, and we used to play hockey, street hockey every day after school by me at this place called the Moose Lodge. They had a parking lot there, and the old men never used it, so we would that would be the place, or we'd be at Fireman's Park playing over there.
Now, was Queenie's on the corner of Broadway and Montauk Highway right there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My mom used to send me down there with a note like, please give Philip cigarettes there for me. Like I used to like that world. Yeah.
Definitely bought my mother cigarettes at gas stations too when I was younger. But I remember in that neighborhood, it always said like now entering Here Park. What the hell is here? What the hell is Here Park?
It meant nothing to us. It wasn't even, it's not even like a park where that was the only entrance to it. They just put that sign there, but no, like none of us down in that area.
Yeah,
we were by the water, as a block from the water.
Gotcha.
But it meant nothing to us. It was just a sign that somebody put up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Kind of like the Village Train Museum.
Right.
I was going to say that Moose Lodge, they went on to have some shows there later on.
Yeah.
Like mid-aughts. They had some shows there.
Even within the last year, I think Somerset played there, right?
That's right. That was at the Moose Lodge. Yeah. Okay.
We remember, talking about shows when we got to that age, it was the Dr. Shays. We did shows at the bowling alley, not the one in Lindenhurst. There was one.
Massapequa.
Yeah.
We used to make flyers and have shows there. And I think the Knights of Columbus had a few shows too, if I'm not mistaken, by you, Vito, right next door to you.
I don't remember any shows there. No.
Am I wrong about that? Maybe I'm confusing it with something else, but
Civic Center in North Lindenhurst and the VFW on Delaware had shows for sure.
maybe that was it.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
why there was never a show at the Knights of Columbus. I don't know if anybody ever asked.
Too nice.
I mean, I didn't.
It was that simple.
Yeah. It should have been me because I lived right next door.
Right.
Yeah.
So like as a kid, was music always something you were interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like for most of us, pick an instrument in fourth grade. I picked the drums. I was pretty good at it. I just did the band in school, and then marching band once I got to high school. And we started, playing with bands when we were younger. But for me, I was self-taught. I know a couple of you guys had lessons and studied a little bit. So my drum set playing, that was always something that I was like, just self-taught, listening to records, playing, doing the best I can. But my structural training from the school program, reading music, marching band, and all that stuff, I took very seriously, and that's ended up what I went to study in college for.
Yeah, I started with piano around fourth grade, but then sixth grade is when I took up drums.
Yeah.
But also on drum kit, I'm totally self-taught,
Yeah.
And I think, even when I went on to give drum lessons, I said the most important thing is always listening to music, playing along to records, reading, that could come later, but, really just get a feel for it and get an ear for music.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also, like what we did, just playing with other kids,
find other kids.
Yeah.
And nowadays they have School of Rock and all that, and we had none of that when we were kids.
Yeah, we had to create it. We do everything for our kids now. We kind of like, it's the parenting thing I'm going through now. It's like bulldoze parenting, where we organize every aspect of the kid's life. Where we used to have to go find friends at the park. We used to have to walk down the street, knock on each other's doors, say, "Hey, is Vito home?"
Yeah.
That childhood, that's lost in today's age, and a lot of it's due to safety and all that stuff, because the world seems like a crazier place nowadays. But I wish my son had that a little bit more than he does.
Do kids even knock on kids' doors anymore, or do you just call their parents' cell phone and tell them that they're there?
The kids get cell phones pretty young now, which is crazy.
You slide into their DMs now.
Yeah. But it's the parents setting it up now, and there are so many activities now. It's like they see each other all the time anyway. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. You were also playing sports as well as a kid.
Yeah, I was playing ice hockey. I took that very seriously, and then when we weren't doing ice hockey, we were playing street hockey in high school, almost every day we played after school.
Yeah.
So that's something I really loved. I still play. My son plays now very competitively, something he's pursuing. So, the music aspect was very serious in my childhood, and the hockey.
Are you a Rangers, Islanders, or Devils fan?
Penguins fan.
Penguins.
Oh God.
The story to that is in OLPH, my best friend growing up was Nick Ruda. I don't know if
that's
you
right.
remember.
Yeah.
And his dad got a job in Pittsburgh, I believe, with the Penguins.
Okay.
Yeah, he moved to Pittsburgh. Yeah, I remember.
So that's how I became a Penguin fan. And I kind of they moved and I lost touch with them. I've since tried to look them up now that we have social media. Can't find any trace of them. But I've stuck with the Penguins, and sadly the Jets. It
didn't hurt. Yager and Lemieux didn't hurt being on that team back then either, though.
They were great, and I could only read about it in the paper the day after. It was tough to see anything on TV back then. It's not like today.
Yeah.
But I loved the logo and the winning basically back then.
Of course.
So getting out of OLPH into public school, was there kind of a culture shock there, or were you excited about it?
I don't remember being nervous or excited. Honestly, I remember the middle school just being huge, a little intimidating, probably. The building is, bigger than the high school. I think that building. So not culture shock. It was different because, I ended up getting into fistfights in ninth grade. And I wasn't like that kind of kid that fought, but just like the school was so big, 600 kids per grade,
Yeah.
Just ended up in, not trouble, but fighting in sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, and then I think ninth grade, and then that was it for me for the school push fights,
Yeah.
But I think I liked it. I don't remember, for me, it was much better place than OPH for, the way I learned or, however you want to put it under that environment.
And then, getting into high school is where we reconnect, I guess, again.
Yeah.
In school band and marching band, which was a big deal for us.
Marching band was a big deal for us. I feel like when my freshman year in the marching band, the drum line was really good. They just won the championship the year before,
right?
And the senior kids in the drum line were actually very popular in the school, and the junior kids, like they weren't like band geeks as we,
right.
So that actually helped me in high school because there were instances where like, the kid was picking on me. I remember one instance, the kid was picking on me in the hallway for something. I was a freshman, and one of the senior kids that we were in the line with saw it and got in this kid's face. And then, like, it was kind of nice to have that, with such popular kids in the school. Yeah. So I was pretty thankful for that. And that was the drum line is some of the fondest memories I have. That group of kids for those, 4 years. Towards the end of our tenure there, the band got weaker and weaker, unfortunately. We felt like it was dying out. Directors changed and all that, but those were some great memories, and I've met some great people that I'm still very close with today.
There's definitely a legacy in Lindenhurst of having a great marching band, especially like in the 80s. There was like this legendary few years where they were just killing it all across the East Coast. And, all those videos are up online now. They're all on YouTube, and you can watch, and it's amazing like how good these kids were at the time.
Yeah. And I think the band is growing. There was like a time when it was like kind of dying down, but I think Kevin Pike is the director again, or now. Maybe I'm mistaken. I'm saying that information correctly, but I think they're on the right track right now.
Yeah, I didn't join actually until 11th grade. I didn't really like coming out of OPH. I didn't know anything. It wasn't until I actually was in gym class with Chris Hale, and he was wearing his drumline hat, and he was kind of ribbing me because I was into hardcore at the time, and he's like, "Oh, what are you angry? Are you getting your aggression out, bro?" I'm like, oh, he's like, "No, you should come join drumline." So I think I came and I watched a rehearsal, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this will get me in shape and get my chops up."
I know. You played tenors that year?
Yeah, both.
Was it me and you on tenors?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's a good. Yeah, those were some heavy drums for us skinny kids.
Oh my God, yeah. I was talking about this in a prior episode, like band camp, 12 hours a day with those things strapped to your back.
Yeah, absolutely. Nowadays, a lot of the bigger programs, they have stands for the kids. They can't hold them.
Yeah.
This generation, I'm at that age. Where I complain about all the younger kids now. Right.
Yeah. So, and you also did. You went in your senior year to the Performing Arts High School in Syosset.
Yeah, I feel like I did that my junior and senior year. I split the day with the Cultural Arts Center. So that was a school that was for kids that just wanted to specialize in the arts, dance, film, music, and we would go there in the morning. The bus would take us there. Me and Greg Cook from Lindenhurst would go, and we'd study music, ear training, jazz band, all that stuff for half the day. Then that was in Syosset, and then they'd bus us to Lindenhurst to take all our core classes, and that was our day every day. And that place was unbelievable, a complete blessing. I think Billy Joel is funding it now because they've been having trouble raising money. The fact that Lindenhurst sent us there was a lot because it was expensive to send your students there. And you're basically asking your hometown to send its like most talented arts people away to another school. Because we were there, we couldn't be in the band program here.
Right.
So it was a big ask. It is a big ask for a lot of these school districts.
That left a nice opening for me, though.
Yeah.
So thank you.
they, a lot of schools don't recommend it, so they don't have the kids and the funding. So I think Billy Joel's been helping keeping the doors open. And that's a great place, and I have a lot of great memories from there for sure.
Are there any other notable students that went there during your time, or that you know of?
From Lindenhurst?
From anywhere.
It was
like anyone who went on to be famous, or
the only like household name was one of the Queer Eye for the Straight Guy kids. I forget which one. He's got to be from Long Island if we looked it up. But yeah, one of those guys went there for design. I forget, for design or dance or something. Yeah, that was the only like household name. But I know a lot of the musicians that went through there are still playing professionally.
And so that's during that time, that's when you decided to pursue it in college as well.
Yeah. So college comes around. I don't know much about music. I know I didn't want to go into music education. I know I didn't want to be a teacher. So as far as performance goes, that leaves you with studying classical or jazz. I'm terrible at jazz. You've not heard a worse guy play jazz behind a drum set. So I went the orchestral route, and I auditioned for a couple schools. Didn't get into one. Where was that? The Hart School of Music I didn't get into. That was a terrible audition. My first one, I was terribly nervous, and they did nothing to help the situation in like making you feel comfortable, And then I auditioned to Purchase up in Westchester, a small SUNY school, and I got in there, and they had, coincidentally, I really didn't know too much about the percussion world, but they had an incredible percussion department, and like world-renowned faculty, and it ended up being a blessing. And I learned, it was a big chamber music school, so we weren't doing we had a symphony orchestra, but it was more about new music, and chamber music and all small ensemble stuff. So I really learned how to be a musician during that time period. And, I'm grateful for it. So then I studied classical percussion for 4 years, and then you get out of college and you realize that there's no jobs for classical percussionists. There's just not a lot. So it's tough. So
yeah,
I actually was burnt out. So I stopped playing music for 2 years. I started playing poker professionally, and I lived up at Foxwoods. And then 2 years of that, I got back into music again, orchestral music. Not much opportunity there. We're in New York, so I started getting into musical theater, and that's how I started my theater path.
Eventually leading up to some Broadway gigs. So tell us a little bit about like the hierarchy of like being a Broadway pit musician and working your way from sub to principal. So I'm assuming that's what you did.
Sure. Yeah. It's a different tale for everybody. The old ways were, you studied with somebody, or you went to school, the musicians who got hired for the show, that's their chair, they call it. Every Broadway show, the regular drummer, the regular percussionist. Every musician's allowed to have 5 subs. This was pre-COVID. Now it's down to 2 or 3, because they don't want so many people in and out,
Yeah.
So basically, you cold call them, you meet them, you email them, introduce yourself, try to build a rapport, and ask if you could sit in and watch the book. You sit next to them during the show, looking over their shoulder, and then try to convince them that you could handle this if they needed a night off. That's like the way that it happens. But in real life, I did 13 months of community theater where we did a show every month. Then my buddy was on a national tour for a Broadway show. He left early. He tried to get me the job. They didn't hire me. They hired somebody, fired him after the first week. My friend said, "I told you so. I'm going to come bail you out for a week, and my friends are going to come take over." So that's how I got my first national tour. Then once you're in that circle, because there's only a few contractors and there's only a few conductors. So once you're in that loop, I was able to fortunately stay on tour for a number of years. So I toured for 5 years. Then, I come home, I sub on some off-Broadway stuff through connections and friendships. And through those connections and friendships, I was able to sub on my first Broadway show, which was American Psycho. And, subbing is a very nerve-wracking, stressful, not fun experience.
I bet.
All while being really fun and exciting. Like it's so hard. There's just so much pressure, especially as the drum chair, because there's no hiding. Everything you do is heard by everybody.
Right.
And you're driving the band or the orchestra, but you're following the conductor who's following the singer. So you have to, it's this whole marriage and balance of how that all works. So I subbed for my buddy on that show. And then a year or so later, he had another chair, and I subbed for him again on Be More Chill on Broadway. And that was the last show I subbed on. Then COVID shut everything down. And I subbed on a couple off-Broadway things since. I was supposed to sub on A Strange Loop that just won Best Musical last year. Again, for the same drummer. It's just a relationship. He knows I'm going to do a good job. That's kind of how it works.
And is that similar for like actors too, when they have understudies? Do they have people that they kind of bring along that they trust?
No, the acting scene. My wife was in Aladdin on Broadway for 7 years. She toured, for 5 years before that. Just like me.
And that's how you met?
We met on that very first tour that my friend put me on. So that's where we met, and it was that gig when we met was The Wedding Singer. And we did a 2-month run in Atlantic City at the casino at Harris. So great summer. We're young, we're working artists, staying for free in Atlantic City, just drinking and doing a show.
Yeah, that must have been wild.
Hell yeah.
So it was a good time. But the acting scene, no, that's a whole nother thing. They have casting directors and agents. You audition a number of times to get in the cast. And then once you're in the show, you have the main cast, and then you have cast members that are in the show every day that cover bigger parts. And then you have swings, which are there in the building every day, but not performing every day, that are ready to go on at a moment's notice. So that's a stressful gig too. That's what my wife specialized in.
Yeah, I bet. And so when you're a sub on a show, like, do you have, even if you're like fifth in line, do you really just have to have that book in your head the whole time, or at least like enough to hack through it? Yeah.
You have not, there's no hacking through you. That's the stressful part of it. Like, you have to sound exactly like that drummer and play pretty much note for note what they're doing. Your job is that nobody knows you're even there. That's kind of the job. So even if you have a way different style, or like the way you hit the hi-hat on a regular basis is different from his body, like, you got to learn the way he's doing. And that's how serious it becomes of molding yourself to be that person.
Sure. And
the problem is, it's hard to do once, and then it's really hard to do if you only get called once every 4 or 5 weeks, because then you have no rhythm. It's your first time every time. So the more experienced guys who have had chairs for a long time, they do take off a lot to keep their subs in working. I'm good friends with the drummer at Wicked, Matt, and he's very aware of that, like keeping the subs in a show that big. You got to set them up for success so you could take off, without grief.
Sure, yeah. So how many shows a week is it usually on a Broadway?
Usually typical 8-show weeks. Holidays, they'll try to squeeze in 9, but it's usually Mondays off is the typical dark day. Yeah. And then, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. Some shows have double Wednesdays instead of a Sunday, But it's a tough schedule. If it's your chair, like when I was on the road, it wears on you. Like, it's mentally exhausting. It's physically exhausting, I know it's just playing drums or instruments, but you have to be so focused that it is dry and it's demanding.
And so when a show is on the road, is it like a couple nights in each city type of thing?
It depends on the level of tour. So the non-union tours, every night you could be in a different city. you're on a bus 6-8 hours a day. You get off, you're at the theater, crew's unloading trucks. You're setting up this huge production. You do it. You go to the hotel, get on the bus every day. And then as you tier up and you get more experience, I've done all the levels of it.
Yeah.
So the bigger tours, the other side of that is they're in venues for 3-4 weeks. They're flying they're flying everywhere, stuff like that. So it gets easier the higher the pay scale, I should say.
Yeah, I've only had the experience touring in a rock band, which is, bottom level until pretty much always.
Yeah, it's just that.
Yeah.
It's tough. I like touring. I was thankful to do the bus and truck, the tough tours when I was younger,
Right.
2008, 9 and 10. I kind of was in that non-union world. And then I was able to get onto some better tours, union shows where even if we were traveling every week or two, like I actually like it. It keeps the schedule moving. But flying every week, it's just becomes a little nicer, but still tiring because your off day is a travel day.
Right.
And, it's the only time you have a day off if you're in a place for more than a week and you have that dark Monday or something like that.
Was this all in the States or did you tour overseas as well?
This was the tours I did were all in the States and Canada. I learned the hard way going into Canada. Years ago, I had a DUI from in the States, and they pulled me off the bus. This is the non-union touring production of The Wizard of Oz. We're at the border. They pull me off. They interrogate me. This very beautiful police, whatever, the Canadian immigration officer, whatever. She's like, "What makes you think we want a criminal walking through our streets?" I'm like, it was a DUI from like 8 years ago. I'm doing The Wizard of Oz. I'm on the bus. I'm not driving. I'm like the least dangerous person, but they didn't let me in, and they didn't let a cast member in. So the company manager just like gives us cash. He's like, "We're on the border in the middle of winter." He's like, "Take a cab to anywhere, and I will figure out how to get you home." So he found a prop, literally a minivan with wig to fly us to an airport to get us home.
Wow.
And when I got a week's vacation out of it. So so then after that, I never tried to get into Canada. So during those weeks, I would just I would get a sub and I would take the time off. And then I was offered a gig in Japan to do a chorus line. And we had to give the answer about the show like 3 weeks after they had the nuclear plant go down. So I turned it down. I ended up turning it down. The tour went, but I didn't go, unfortunately.
Understandably, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
the Fukushima production of Chorus Line.
Right. And we're not going to know for years if the people who went,
There was a movie back in the day where like all of the actors got cancer later on, right? John Wayne being one of them.
Oh, really?
It was a film that was made in the 70s, and I think like everybody who was on the set got cancer because of some chemical spill somewhere. So that can happen.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it would have been an amazing trip. And I almost ended up going halfway through I got in a bad situation. My friend asked me to recommend his friend, who I actually knew, for the gig, and it didn't go well. And I sent this person all the materials he needed for this to be a successful gig: music, audio, chart, like everything, like set him up. And it wasn't going well. Where they wanted to send me out there, like after the first few days, and they put my visa through and everything. And then I was like, guys, I can't go. So it's tough. It's a tough thing about subbing or, asking, if you could take off and it doesn't go well, because then, you'll never be allowed to do it again. It has to go perfect. And that's why getting into the sub scene is so hard on Broadway and on these shows, because it's such a big responsibility.
Can I go back a little bit there? I'm a little more interested in the professional poker thing. How did you get into that?
Okay, so I got into that at college, started playing towards the end of college. And
the online poker boom was huge at that point, I'm guessing, right?
The online boom came right after I started playing because
Okay.
I started in like 2002, 2003, and then I
So
think
it's shortly right after that it
yeah,
explodes.
yes. And when I was at college, I started going up to Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun because it was like a couple hours away. And I
Yeah,
started
right
playing.
over Connecticut. Yeah.
Yep. And I just started playing and I became like obsessed with it. And then, you know, when I got out of school, I didn't have a job or anything in music or
Uh-huh.
anything. So I just started playing cards and I just went there and just kind of met a kid and it's like, hey, I have a room in my house. You want to, with a couple guys. And I just never came home for like 2 years. It was like 18 months basically. I was playing full time.
Terry? They say there's only two kinds of gamblers: professional and degenerate. How do you
Yes.
become a professional? Like what's the delineation?
The delineation is, I think, income, being able to
Gotcha.
make money at it. And
Yeah.
the thing back then was two things here. One, poker was way easier back then than it is today.
Right. Before the
A,
boom at yeah.
a thousand times easier. So if you read two books, you were better than most of the people around you.
It
Now
wasn't a
it,
table full of guys with sunglasses that they
yeah,
saw on TV doing that whole thing.
no, it was
Yeah.
people trying to have a good time throwing money around and all was good. So it wasn't that hard of a feat. It was, tough.
Gotcha.
It's always tough, but it was not like today. I couldn't even dream of guys that do it today. It's like
Hmm.
the game's become utterly mechanical, insane, no fun. Um, but I never had a gambling problem. A lot of people's problems are running to blackjack. They get stuck in a poker game. They try to get it back in blackjack.
Gotcha.
Never had pit problems. And then, I ended up stopping because when I was dating a girl and we got pregnant with my son Anthony, and going way back, getting deep now. My dad growing up wasn't in the picture, and he was a complete scumbag. Uh,
Gotcha.
so I didn't want to grow up being like, oh, I gamble for a living to my son.
Of
So
course.
right about the time he was born, I transitioned out of that and got back into music. But I started dealing in that transition at underground clubs in New York City.
Okay.
Crazy money. I mean,
On some rounder shit, right?
on some rounder shit.
And in my club, I will splash the pot whenever the fuck I please.
The club that I worked at got robbed and there was a shooting and a teacher from New Jersey died. If you
Oh
Google it,
no.
I was
Gotcha.
not, thankfully, I was not working that day, but I was at this club 4 days a week and I was dealing, a shift would be from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And
Uh-huh.
you'd go to the club, you'd pay $80, $70 or $80 to deal. Like you had to pay them. I would make, if I worked 8 to 8, I'd make $1,500 a night in tips.
I was gonna ask, what kind of money do you see going through that place?
It was in the place itself. I ran the cage towards the end of my tenure there. They
Hmm.
had nine tables running. They'd make 10,000 a day. The place
Okay.
in rake dealing. If you dealt till midnight, you'd make 500 ish, 600 ish. And I was in my early 20s making that kind of money. And we spent it as fast as we got it because we were
Of course.
stupid,
As
young,
one does, yeah.
and you'd think it's never going to end.
Hmm.
So and until it does, if I
Right.
saved half of it, my adulthood would have been quite different and easier.
All right.
Sure. I do remember you driving an Escalade at one point.
Yeah, I had. Yeah, I went from a perfectly fine used Escalade, and then I got a 2005 Escalade in the second it came out,
Yeah, yeah.
and then couldn't afford it, and the bank ended up taking it at the end of that tale. When you go back into music, making dealing money, and then I went to playing community theater for 50 a show. Yeah, I couldn't keep up.
That's humbling. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So
Or-
life lessons. Don't quit dealing at illegal clubs.
Mm.
And but we were playing together for a little while. You played percussion in A Life.
Yes, yeah, I did a little
time.
brief stint.
You were there for the CC DeVille incident.
Yep. And that was in,
at
yeah.
Bogarts. Yeah.
I still have, I've, for some reason, I had a timbale I was playing and I cut my finger on the rim and the blood on the head. He signed it. I still have that head signed from CC DeBell.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's,
that was a great.
I think that's the only proof that he was there that night. There you go.
Nobody believes us. Yeah. We just
Yeah.
keep trying to convince people.
It really happened, everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, so moving on back into music and yeah, what other musical things were you doing besides Broadway and the theater stuff?
Right. So theater was mostly my bread and butter, and I would do concerts at for like Broadway singers. Like I performed at the theater at Madison Square Garden, like big stages, theaters for just a singer. We'd be her sideline musicians. They'd hire a band for it or whatever, stuff like that. And then non-theater related, I play for Troy Ramey. I've been doing that for 10 years. He was a finalist on The Voice. Like 6 years ago, maybe. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful talent. I'm his biggest fan. It's unbelievable. And I've been recording. I'm not on all of his stuff that's out. I'm on some of it more and more now. And I've just been playing live with him when we play, and doing some of his studio stuff.
And so going from like theater drumming to like rock and pop stuff, I know like there's that it's a different vibe, and especially like when you get in a recording studio, like doing a rock or pop thing, like there's a lot you like hear your inconsistencies very well.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just kind of like a different ball game as going from like a very educated musician who's sight reading to someone who like has to just hold the beat down for a singer.
Yeah.
So what was your experience with that?
Well, I think the theater was such great training for studio stuff because the shows have to be so identical every night and you strive for that and that consistency. And a lot of the shows now are to a click.
Yeah.
Which is super important. Is everything we do in the studio is to a click nowadays. I've been recording some of the stuff here in my home studio. He sends me the track to a click. I record here. So I think the thing I learned most from the theater to the studio is to just let the mics do the work. I'm never hitting too hard. I'm just kind of letting the drums, letting the mic and the engineer take care of a lot of the heavy lifting and just trying to make the drum sound as beautiful as possible.
Yeah.
But we're not. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, like, there is a difference between playing loud and playing hard.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Non-drummers don't understand. Like, it's all on your technique.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I play, I grew up playing super heavy music, but
Sure.
I could play that same music now. I'd never break a cymbal. Right. Just like, I'm just too loose in my grip now, and I'm too married to the rhythm of like how the cymbal flows with my body, where when we were younger, it was like kind of smash and grab and just like trying to just get our anger out as
yeah. Chris Hale was right. Stuff. You were right, Chris Hale. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I do think there's a lot of, being in a Broadway pit now is a lot like being in a studio because you're in a sound isolation booth in a lot of cases. Yeah. You're in ears you have a click track. It's kind of a lot like that. So
in some cases, you're in a completely different room.
Yeah. Yes. Some theaters you're in your own room backstage.
Yeah.
Kinky Boots was like that, which is Cyndi Lauper's drummer, who hits the drums louder than anybody I've ever heard. Like he is a rock and roll arena rock guy. It was pretty cool to see. But my first sub gig on Broadway, the band was in the balconies of the theater. So like the drum was in one little section and the guitar player was in the other. So you're in all these like different environments. So just being aware of your surroundings and, again, like if you're up there cranking away, you're a huge distraction. You got to pick the right instruments to get what you need out of it without like needing to beat the crap out of it, for lack of a better term.
Cool. So like moving on to today, you took on another business venture.
Yeah.
In real estate.
Yes. So
tell us a little bit about that and how you got into that.
So when I got out of touring, my wife, we were both on the road with shows. My wife was doing West Side Story and then the Addams Family tour. Then she books Aladdin on Broadway. I'm out on the road with Flashdance. So now she has a great job, great paying job here in New York. She's like, come home, come freelance, get off the road. So I turned down the next tour they offered me, came home, started freelancing. After about a year of struggling, like fluctuating income, nowhere near what I was making touring, she's like, get your ass a job. So I started getting into contracting. So I could kind of not pick and choose, but still do gigs on weekends and nights and stuff and try to balance the two. So I started getting into some contracting. I did that for like 2 years working for somebody. And I realized that I should just work for myself because I wasn't happy with the money I was making working for somebody else. So I got licensed and have my own company now here on Long Island. And after doing that for a bit, I decided I just wanted to do my own projects completely. So we started buying houses to flip. And we just finished our third house. And they're all in Pittsburgh. They're long distance flips, very challenging, full guts. I usually go out there. I do all the work. This last one, I did half the work. I tried to hire out a little more. Pittsburgh presents a lot of challenges for finding good help. So we're kind of now shifting. So now I'm stepping away from theater a lot now. I've been turning down some sub gigs and stuff like that, and focusing more on the real estate construction and the Troy Ramey stuff. Mostly because economically, my son, I can't tell you how expensive kids are when they become teenagers, but he's playing ice hockey, tens of thousands of dollars a year for ice hockey. So it's just like, it's gotten so out of control. I actually can't afford to do the music theater stuff anymore. So kind of just flipping houses. Our last flip, we couldn't sell, so we're holding it as a rental. It's making us money now monthly, but it wasn't our goal for that house. But it's stable, it's okay. And we're looking, for the next project. And I do construction work, residential, if word of mouth customers come by, just finished an apartment remodel. I'm starting another one this week. I have a theater gig. I'm doing a concert at Adelphi this weekend. So some stuff does come up. If I want to do it, I'll do it. Okay. But bread and butter musically is just Troy now, and a lot of the construction and real estate investing stuff.
And so when you first got into it, you were just literally working construction, like working on crews?
Yeah, not really crews. I worked for a company that had a painting I was a painter. We had contracts with those huge complexes, the Avalons that are all over Long Island.
Okay, yeah.
And just to turn them over, paint them, repair them when people moved out. So I kind of started there. When we bought our house here in Valley Stream, we remodeled it. My cousin was a contractor, and he helped me remodel this whole house. So I learned everything, basically from that. Had soup to nuts, how to do everything. And then over the years, you keep learning and learning, and I've gotten pretty good at it. So it's fun, and I kind of enjoy working with my hands. It's creative.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's very similar to music. It fulfills you. It's I compare a lot of remodels to jazz because you always run into problems when you open things up and you have to figure out creative solutions to get the job done,
A lot of improvisation going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why was Pittsburgh the destination there? Besides the Penguins, obviously.
And nothing to do with the Penguins, sadly. It was because it was the only place we could afford.
Gotcha.
You could still buy a house in Pittsburgh right now today for 60 grand, 70 grand.
Gotcha.
It's not in a great neighborhood. The first house we bought was for $76,000. I forget the numbers. We put like 105 into it and we sold it for like 265. So Pittsburgh is one of those places where you could kind of make those margins, and you're buying isn't that bad, But this last house, we're buying houses in, close to 300, and we're putting like 200 into it. So every project's gotten bigger and bigger.
Gotcha.
Is that the general cost in Pennsylvania, or is that just more Western Pennsylvania?
That's that's it in the city, and it's Pittsburgh's a crazy city because similar to Long Island, Dix Hills is next to Wine Bench.
Yeah, the nice places are always immediately next to the worst places.
Yeah. But like in general, cost of living, you could get a really sick house in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, for what you get a burnt down Cape on Long Island for,
Right.
You could get a lot for your money there, still to this day. There's a lot of new money in Pittsburgh. A lot of tech companies are there now, so there's young money coming in. So a lot of these towns, there's a section of the city called Lawrenceville. Everything's $1 million there. So there are pockets like that. But a lot of Pittsburgh is still blue collar town that quite doesn't have the money to upkeep their houses themselves. So there's a lot of very affordable real estate still.
Is the cost any difference in the cost of materials between there and New York?
Not much.
Gotcha.
Not much. Labor's cheaper a little bit, for sure. And, property taxes are fractions of what we have to. So carrying cost is a little less, but materials is pretty similar here.
Gotcha.
And so if and when you do move from Long Island, is that like the plan is to buy low and renovate yourself?
My ultimate plan is to buy like a 50-acre farm with we want big animals. We want horses, cows, and I want to build like 10 cabins on it, like Airbnbs. Have them rent out horse stalls. We want to take in retirement horses, so they could live out their years peacefully and be petted every day by us. So that's kind of the goal. Like, hopefully the farm will sustain itself, not from farming, but from the Airbnb income, rental income, and I'll still be flipping houses and picking up hopefully rentals along the way. Like I accidentally picked up on this last flip that we kept.
Cool.
And we plan to keep this house here. I don't think we'd ever sell this house. We'll probably keep it rented out, and continue to build up our portfolio.
Cool. So we didn't get into first jobs earlier, but it is a good segue to our next section of the podcast because you did work at a pizza place for a long time.
I did 11 years.
But in Copiague.
Yep. I worked at Joe's Pizza in Copiague on Merrick Road. When I was 14, I started there, and it's actually, I'll get into this in a second. I started there as a dish boy, making $4 an hour. I would go after school every day. And it is why, well, as far as I know, why I got kicked out of Negative Influence growing up. Because the band came to my job and handed me a note. And the note was something like, with this job, you can't take the band seriously, blah, 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 So I got booted from the band.
Once again, leaving an opening for me, so thank you.
Is this the Joe's that's now like the underground Joe's in Amityville that you have to like call a secret number to have delivered to you? Do you know what I'm talking about at all? I
do not know what you're talking about. That's interesting. No.
There's a Joe's that operates out of a kitchen, a restaurant's kitchen in Amityville that I think used to be either in Copiague or Amityville over there. And it's the guy's son now of the original Joe's. And it's like Joe's Underground Pizza. You have to call a secret number and like go there to pick it up, or they deliver to whatever spots. But I think it might be tangentially related to the same place. I'll have to look into that.
What's funny, about growing up and thinking about that is my circle of friends was so eclectic because I had my Copiague work friends that as I got older, I was there for 11 years. So when I got older, we hung out all the time. I had my hockey friends, Eric Tercy and all those kids. Then I had my marching band people. And then I had the hardcore kids that, Vito, Pat that you met, interviewed last week. So I had so many little pockets. So it was kind of cool in that way. I kind of liked working in Copiague. I made a lot of good friends over there. It was a good group and good memories. And it's a great trade to learn. I actually miss making pizza sometimes.
So, yeah, usually the first question we ask in our best and worst of the Hearst is best pizza.
It's
Did you think Joe's was superior to the neighboring pizza spots?
It was excellent. And not just because I was there, we did have the best pizza, but there was a famous place in Copenhagen, Albert's, I think, where they make the upside down pie.
Uh-huh.
Still there.
We used to trade with them because we used to be sick of our own pizza. They used to be sick of theirs. So we'd occasionally do a swap. And then, but yeah, they're very good. Those, I would say us and them were the two most popular places in that area. Mama's was, but there was more of a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then we also used to bring pies every Friday night to the multiplex movie theater, and they used to let us in for free. We'd catch the last movie of the night, we'd bring all the leftovers, and we'd go see a movie every week.
Yeah, pizza's a good bargaining chip for a lot of things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, who doesn't like pizza?
So let's talk Chinese food. What was your favorite Chinese food growing up?
Oh, the only one I really remember, I'm the worst person probably with names. We didn't eat Chinese food. I grew up with two Italian women, my mom and my grandma. So most meals were cooked. I think if we ordered, it was from the place by the movie theater on Merrick Road. I'd be damned if I knew the name.
Yes. Still there with the yellow sign.
Yes.
Near Swank Hair, yeah.
Yeah, I used to go there get my hair cut
okay.
when I was a baby.
Okay, well, moving on then. What about favorite like playground or hangout spot as a kid?
It was definitely the Moose Lodge and Fireman's Park. We were only there. I never like hung out like, at the mall or the 7-Eleven corner. We played football and killed a man with the ball at Bauer Elementary there when it's still there, but it's no longer a school anymore. But I would say Fireman's Park and the Moose Lodge I have the most fond memories with for sure.
And what else do we got? So did you have a favorite band out of Lindenhurst?
Ooh, out of Lindenhurst. Growing up in that hardcore scene, I was blown away by VOD. It was probably, you talked about the PWAC with Pat. The first time, that's how we kind of discovered the scene. My first show at the PWAC, I had an Oasis t-shirt on.
Which every hardcore kid loves now.
Yeah.
You were 30 years ahead of the curve.
It'd be a $500 shirt on eBay right now.
Literally, yeah.
So I remember we went there. I can't remember. I did see VOD. I could have been that show, but the Warped Weeble Wobbles were there.
Yeah.
I was just so many good bands. Hatebreed I was really big into. But that VOD green record, right, with the green face coming out of the water. Am I thinking of that correctly?
The little green drop thing. Yeah.
That was really something I listened to all the time. And then when E-Town's album came out, it kind of like blew my mind of the production quality. And it just, that thing became like a staple in what I was listening to.
Yeah, E-Town really like created a whole nother subsect of hardcore kids who were like,
whether or not they knew it, Lindenhurst was a very good audience for them.
And I remember like Relentless. I used to really like. Who else? Motive. All those bands that we were like in that world of seeing or being on bills with. I really love that scene, and it's weird. So I was in that hardcore scene, and then occasionally listening to Miss Saigon on my CD player, going to school, trying to learn, that theater world and classical music and stuff. So I tried to, I was pretty secretly eclectic,
Yeah.
It's the way to be.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I guess, that brings us to our final question. If you had to describe Lindenhurst to somebody who's never been there, what would you tell them?
I would say it's a great place to grow up and live. I think it's even growing now better than it was in a lot of ways from what we had there. I think there's a lot of businesses growing there. I know that whole strip now has a lot of bars and restaurants and stuff like that. I think it's a good place to raise a family. Property values are finally coming up in Lindenhurst. It was kind of like the last, town on Long Island, one of them near us to grow economically in that way. So they're trying to sell houses in the 600s, 700s now. especially down by my mom's house. They want 750. It's kind of crazy to think about for Lindenhurst,
Yeah.
But my grandmother's still there in the same house, and my mother. So I'm there a lot, and it's a place that I think is good. It's a good place to be.
Did Hurricane Sandy affect your mother's house at all?
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We only had 3 feet of water in the house in the basement. It was a finished basement, but thankfully the upper floors weren't affected. We were the last house where water reached. We're 2 blocks from the bay and 1 block from the canal.
Yeah.
So there was a boat on our yard, on our lawn that landed there. But yeah, so we just had to fortunately just redo the basement, and we lost the boiler and all that kind of stuff. But we were lucky, my close friend Eric Tercy, they practically had to total their house. They kept the full gut his house. He's right on the canal, 4 feet of water in. I had another friend's house who burnt down. It's like that was a very, very tough time, as for everybody over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when FEMA is parked down your block, it's nothing good.
Yeah, I know. And it's crazy. I know somebody that just this year finished building their house up from Sandy again. He was waiting for insurance and all that stuff.
Definitely.
All these years later, yeah.
Well, we survived, so.
Yeah, I know. We're fortunate. It's going to happen again. It's just we want to live by the water. It's bound to happen again. It's anywhere. We're suckers for the sea.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, Phil. It's good catching up with you.
You too, brother. Thank you for having me. I hope I wasn't rambling too much and I was remotely entertaining.
Not at all.
It was perfect, man.
Thank you, guys. Talk soon.
I live up, I'm on the border of Smithtown, St. James.
Okay.
Still on the island.
Moved on up in the world.
Right on. North Shore living.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your origins in Lindenhurst, how your family ended up here, what your folks did for a living.
Sure. You got to promise me you're not going to use my high school graduation photo, though.
No, it's whatever you want.
All right. I have a story about that photo, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, I grew up on Duville Parkway, a block over from Venetian, right, literally up the street from Venetian. Those were our battlegrounds back in the day, way back, and born there.
So you would have went to Harding Elementary?
I went to Harding, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One day my parents got a phone call home. What was I, 5th grade, 6th grade? I shot out the windows of the school with a pellet gun. That was a fun day. But I grew up in Lindenhurst, moved out of Lindenhurst when I was 26 years old, 25, 26.
Okay. So what are some of your first memories as a kid?
Oh, there's a lot, man. There's a whole lot. I grew up pretty, I would say, I think normal. I mean, what is normal? My parents worked, obviously. I was home causing trouble and causing ruckus around the streets. And I had great friends. I still talk to a few people from the town. Not as many as I'd like over the years. Obviously, as you get older, people kind of drift away and fall apart. But I still talk to a few people that I literally grew up with. Lifelong memories, man. Lindenhurst shaped me for what I am. It's funny. I tell my kids, I have 2 kids. I was like, you might be able to take the dude out of Lindenhurst, but you can't take the Lindenhurst out of the dude.
Absolutely. Do you have any siblings?
I do. 2 older brothers.
Okay.
Both Lindenhurst graduates. Both lived, grew up there. I'm the youngest of the 3.
So it's interesting because number one is the youngest, you probably got away with the most because they took most of the brunt of by the time you came along, I'm sure your parents were exhausted and they were just like, do your thing.
That's 100% fact right there.
Yeah.
But also, you get all the hazing as a kid, as the younger one.
Yeah, my parents are awesome. Unfortunately, they're no longer around. But they were awesome. My brothers and I went in different paths in life. Two of them went on to college. They majored in accountant. One's a partner at one of the biggest firms in the world. The other one's doing well in the accountant world. And they got this dude who went down the music road
Yeah.
and just kind of did a 180 in life. And but I have no regrets, man. I wish I didn't fuck around, excuse my language, as much as I did when I was in high school. I wish I would have taken my education more serious. I wish that I would have just did the things I preach with my kids now. How important school is, how important grades are, how important getting a degree is. I did the opposite, and not to say I don't regret my path in life. I don't at all, led me to where I am today.
Yeah.
But I certainly could have made things a lot easier for myself if I would have did things a bit differently.
What did your parents do for a living?
My dad was in the Navy, Navy guy, and he was retired due to injury. And my mother worked. She was a VP of operations for a moving company. So she worked. And that's my dad was a stay-at-home dad. He was disabled, if you will.
Sure.
But he was a stay-at-home. And they were awesome.
That was a rarity back when we were growing up, just a stay-at-home dad in general, like by choice.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
All my friends used to bust my chops on that. But he was, both my family, my entire family's from Brooklyn, and my dad, you would hear him bitch and complain at least 5 days a week. If we were living in Brooklyn still, one of those things. And but they were hard. They were hard-nosed people. Very working class. We did not have a lot of means at all. Mm-hmm. My family scrapped by. It wasn't like we had all this money. We had nothing. We wanted something. You had to work for it. My first job, I was 16. I was my son's age now, working. You wanted something, you get a job, you go out and pay for it, and you get it. Nothing was handed, and that's kind of that mentality. Especially from Lindenhurst, it's the blue collar. You got to work your ass off to get something mentality, and I carry that with me every day. Even in my multiple bands and projects and everything that I do, it's you got to work your ass off for it.
For sure. And so,
what are some of the extracurriculars you were getting into back then? Any sports, or what age were you when you started taking an interest in music?
Yeah, so I played football and lacrosse, and I was football is my passion. I love football, love it. My kids both excel at it. I have my one boy goes to St. Anthony's, and they just won a state title. He's 6'4", 220, a gigantic being.
Uh-huh.
So football is a passion. I played both. I was actually told to quit playing football, which killed me because of lacrosse scholarships, and I had a ton of scholarships, a ton of offers. I was supposed to go down that road, playing lacrosse in college, and needless to say, music fucked that all up,
Right.
And I remember I was supposed to take my SATs. Well, I did take my SATs. I remember a bunch of us, we were at a Radiohead concert at Hammerstein Ballroom in Manhattan. It was the MTV 10 Spot show.
Shit.
Back when MTV was a thing, and OK Computer just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Radiohead was starting to blow up. We went to that gig. And it was like, guys, we have our SATs in the morning. What are we going to do? Fuck it. So we went to the gig, did whatever we did. We went from the train, Long Island Railroad, Lindenhurst, right to West Babylon High School for the SATs, those are the stupid things that we did. So needless to say, I didn't score very good on my SATs. Fast forward, take the SATs again. Sure as shit, Radiohead comes back into town. This time they're playing Radio City Music Hall. We go to the gig.
Same thing.
Night before the SATs, it's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go again. And same thing. So I screwed that all up. I screwed up any scholarship dream I had because, I didn't take it seriously.
Have you ever met Tom York to thank him for? You have.
I have told him that story, and he laughed. So he didn't know what the SATs were or is.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, what? They give it that British. Like, what is that? I had to explain it in British terms.
It gets you into uni. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so that happened to me 2 times, man, and I look back at it now and I go, what an asshole. What the fuck was I thinking back then? And why the hell did my parents allow me to get away with this shit?
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side of things, I was, music around my junior year of high school. That's when I really started playing bass for real. Like I wanted to play bass. And I only started playing basses because my friends all played guitar and drums and sang, and what's a bass? What does the bass do? I was like, I guess I'll do that. And but it really took all. It kind of just drew me in, and I would say around my junior year of high school is when I started taking music very seriously and started thinking that this could be I didn't think it was going to be an option in life. I had no clue. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and still to this day, the main bass I use, which is the bass I got my junior year of high school, which is what I still play to this day. My parents got that for me on layaway.
Okay.
They couldn't even afford it. And back then, $500 bass was a very expensive instrument.
Yeah.
And after 25, 30 years of mods and modifications and shit that I did with it, but
you're lucky if you're getting a Squire at $500 these days,
Yeah, no, I know, but I still use that same bass. I have endorsements. I've had many bass companies send me free basses, and I shit you not, I sent them all back. It's just, that's what works for me. My hands kind of mold to that.
Grew into it, yeah.
But
now, I don't know if this would be your first band, but you and I both have the distinct pleasure of having played in a band with Pat Gorman. You having been in the Muff-Shaped Ducks, I believe, with him.
Holy shit! Are you serious with that?
Was that your first band?
I haven't laughed that hard, and holy shit! Wow, yes, that was my first band. That was with Pat.
Shout out to Pat and Mike Tahali for giving me some info there.
Pat was. I haven't talked to him in years. We were close though, in high school, and Pat was
also a football player.
Yes, Pat was a great dude, man,
and probably a lacrosse player as well, as I would imagine, because his father was a coach. Yeah.
No, he played both too. Pat was great, man. We Muff-Shaped Ducks, long live. That was, again, who the hell came up with that name? I think Danny Andreessen. I still talk to him to this day. Danny.
Right. He was another member of the band, and Mike and Pat could not remember your drummer's last name. They said it was Chris something, but they didn't know who it was.
Chris, yeah. So so I met him my first semester in college.
Okay, so this is a little bit after high school.
Right after high school. So my first semester, he played lacrosse for Farmingdale. So I went to Farmingdale. Gotcha. So to back up, I wound up, at that time, Farmingdale was a junior college. Mm-hmm. You didn't need SATs to get in. It was like a Nassau or a Suffolk. That was literally my only option. Mm-hmm. So my first semester, I met Chris. And somebody else played drums with us when we were in high school. I just don't remember who. I know Danny, Pat, and I, we were all joined to the hip.
Would it have been Danny Wright? Because I know he played with Pat and Mike after that.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, but I don't remember who. Shit, man, we used to go to the Jam House all the time.
Yeah,
all the time we used to go there, and
that fucking staircase.
and I forgot who. I honestly can't tell you who, but Chris came in. it was a Greek last name. I can't recall his last name.
That's what they said, and they said he eventually went to the military or something.
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went to Farmingdale, played lacrosse there for 1 year, broke some school records, won an All-American award, and then quit. And then I just said, fuck this, I want to, it's music. It's just, and at that time, muff shaped ducks, that kind of just, everyone went their separate ways.
Right.
I started jamming with bands and playing with all types of bands, all makes and models. Through college, I took, after my first year at college, I actually flunked out. I got put on academic probation that if I didn't pick up my grades, I'm gone. And that's when my dad said, I'm not paying for it anymore.
Yeah.
Here are the bills.
Mm-hmm.
It's all you know. So I wound up taking out student loans. And at that point, I actually turned my shit together. I wound up graduating college with a 3.8 GPA. I majored in art. I got a degree from their visual communications program. Went on, got my master's. But that first year of college from Lindenhurst to Farmingdale, it was pivotal, man, because again, I had zero help. I was fucking around again, and music was kind of in that swervy road for me. And where does it lie? And and that's where it kind of went. But yeah, man, if you talk to Pat, tell him I said hello.
For sure.
Hopefully he's doing well in life.
Yeah. He's teaching in Bethpage, so he's
nice.
doing good, holding it down. Yeah,
nice.
So speaking of the art thing, just to bring it back a little bit, we talk about Mr. Tracy a lot on this podcast. Is a very important figure in Lindenhurst High School for people like us. That's my one memory of you, Mark, is we were in that homeroom together.
I was in homeroom with you?
I believe so. Yeah, I remember in Mr. Tracy's shop class over there.
So yeah, I was a freshman when you were a senior, and he was
I was a junior.
Junior, right?
I'm class of '99. So.
Yep, and I'm 2001.
I wish I could tell you what happened. Yeah, there's a lot of black area.
Sure,
I understand.
But I would imagine his class and like what he taught there was instrumental in you like going on to college for that type of thing.
With art, I never took a lot. I didn't take many art classes in high school. I took one art class I forgot the teacher's name, but I remember she was a huge Queen fan.
Yeah,
and we bonded.
Miss Johnson.
Yes, that's it.
There you go.
She was a big Queen fan, and she was actually my introduction into the band Queen, who I love now. She brought in a record, the jazz album, which she had painted onto the wall of the school.
Yeah.
And she was the one who turned me onto Queen.
It's another big thing we talk about too with Lindenhurst High School. There's a lot of weird rock and roll murals all over that school. Like I don't know any other school that would have two King Diamond murals on the wall.
I know, right? Yeah,
they're still there.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, my time at Lindenhurst was awesome. I loved it, absolutely loved it. It shaped me. It's funny in today's world. Everyone calls me the ball buster, or I'm just always not fucking around, but just busting chops. But I'm also very black and white and very blunt. And I tell them that's just the kind of way we all were. It's just,
I think that's a South Shore thing,
It's a South, that's why I don't get along with many people from the North Shore. I have friends up here, but it's, it's the South Shore attitude. People. You either love it or you hate it, and fortunately or unfortunately, it's the way it's ingrained into my system, and
so as you're playing in bands like Muff Shaped Ducks, whatever after that, where are you gigging around, or is it just kind of like rehearsal space stuff?
So no, in college, man, we gigged everywhere. I had a few different bands. We literally hopped a van, station wagon, any car that we could get our hands on. I mean, we played everywhere from CBGB's to the Limelight, Continental, all the way down. We went as far as Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, up Connecticut. I mean, across the Jersey, PA. We played every shithole in every borough of the city. That's where that's what I called my college. That's where I really learned to not only craft my instrument, but the music business. I've learned how not to get fucked over by promoters. I've learned that's where I got my education, was in those streets, man. Kids don't understand, you taking 2 Ampeg 810 cabinets and hauling them down the basement stairs in Manhattan.
Carrying a refrigerator. Yeah.
2 of them I carried.
Uh-huh.
And it was
there's no music school that's going to teach you how to do that. Yeah.
No.
I did that for years, all through college, all through after, even after college. I kind of went backwards in life. When I graduated from school, I got a job right away at the Dario. And I remember graduation was on a Friday. I started work on a Monday.
They were there. Are they still in Farmingdale, or they were in Farmingdale at the time?
Still in Farmingdale.
Okay.
Jim DeDario, the owner, was actually at our senior exhibit gallery night. So
for
all the seniors, you had, instead of writing your senior thesis, you had to do your exhibit. And he happened to be there for whatever reason. And my exhibit was on Jimi Hendrix's performance at Woodstock. And I created all this
perfect
art around it. And he loved it. And he offered me a job. I was like, yep, I'll be at work on Monday.
So what were you doing there at that point?
I was getting coffee and getting donuts and wiping asses.
Whatever they told you to, kind of.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And that was my foray into the music industry.
There you go.
From there, basically, I had a hell of a music business career. I worked at the Dario for a few years, rose up the ranks there. Then I went to work at Samson, Harkey, and Zoom. And I was there for the better part of 10 years. I ended my career there as director of marketing, artist relations. Basically, I helped them launch to what is now handheld recording. I created those products. I created the campaigns around that. I basically signed every bass player under the sun to the Harkey brand. Befriended many of my childhood idols at that company. When the first time I met Geezer Butler of Black Sabbath, I almost shit myself. He's like he's on my Mount Rushmore for me. And the first time I met him, I was like like that. But I'm good friends with him now, which is crazy to think about all these years later. Steve Harris from Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
I became close friends with the Cliff Burton family. Cliff's dad, Ray, he actually came to one of our gigs.
Passed away recently, right?
Passed away. He gave me Cliff's bass to play.
Oh God!
Wow.
Which is actually hold on. Let me see if you can see this. How do I change my video? This you got to see. It's pretty cool.
While you're checking this out, you came back onto my radar. I was watching a live stream of the Metal Masters concert, and it might have been Frankie Bello or something that said, I want to thank Mark Menghi. And I was like, holy fuck, like Lindenhurst Mark Menghi? And it was you. Yeah. Wow.
This is a painting someone made me of Cliff's dad sitting on the stage watching me playing Cliff's bass with Cliff climbing in the heavens over here. So a fan made me this,
that's very cool.
Awesome. But yeah, I got to befriend all these people, and I've been extremely fortunate, and I still thank Radiohead for steering me in the wrong goddamn direction. But
so like in meeting all those people, is that where the seeds for the Metal Allegiance were planted?
Yeah. So in 2014, at that point, I conquered the music business. I was doing great. I was making money hand over fist. Life was great. And then Metal Masters happened. I'm the one who got Phil Anselmo to sing Pantera again during those gigs. Now the Pantera's back on reunion.
Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, what were the Metal Masters shows all about?
It was a fucking crazy idea that I had. I was working with Frank Bello from Anthrax and Dave Ellefson from Megadeth. I signed them both to Harkey, and I was like, let's do a clinic together. Use two together. That would be pretty, as a bass player. And I'm thinking about me. What would Lindenhurst Teenage Mark like to see? Used to fucking noodling together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did that. And it was awesome. And then I got a phone call from Charlie Benanti of Anthrax, who saw video clips of it. Goes, man, that was awesome. We should do a bass and drum clinic. And I was on the phone with him, and a text comes in from Mike Portnoy. Hey, dude, I just saw these clips. We should do a bass and drum thing. And then I was like, fucking 2 bass players, 2 drummers.
Really,
I'm with Charlie. I'm like, perfect. And that was the seeds for the first Metal Masters. And we did that the day before the first Big Four show in Indio, California. And the place there had to be 1,000 kids there. There were helicopters floating for these 4 dudes coming to a music store. That's never been done before.
Yeah.
And then from there, we just grew it. We got Philip and Kerry King, and we got all kinds of dudes coming in. We wound up doing 5 of them over the years. Geezer Butler did one of them, and
Gary Holt, Dave Lombardo, all those guys, right?
Yeah. And it just grew and grew. We were the first one to do a clinic in Times Square, right in the middle of Manhattan. That was Metal Masters 2. We had Anthrax open up the clinic. They played full set. Then we did the clinic. And then we had this all-star jam with Phil Anselmo came out at the end. And we did a bunch of Pantera songs. But yeah, it was 2014. I needed a timeout. It was just, a lot going on in my personal life. And it was basically, do I want to continue going down this road, or do I want to be a dad? And I chose being a dad. And I gave everything up. I walked away. I literally walked away from it all. And I said, I'm done. I'm never coming back in the music business. And it was a great career. And then Metal Allegiance started. And then that just kind of, that's why I went backwards. I went from business with fun and playing to starting a full-fledged band, signing 2 worldwide record deals, and just going out on the road. But I kind of modeled MA after not only my schedule, but literally Metal Allegiance is altered around my schedule with my kids, because I promised myself, if I was doing this, my kids are first, whatever I have to do there, everything else drops below that. And that's kind of what happened with MA. And it was late summer 2014 that I formulated MA, and then we did our first gig that fall. It was on Motorhead's motorboat cruise. We did 2 sets on the motorboat, and then right from there we just again the wheels started turning. We got together.
What was the initial lineup?
Phil Anselmo, Rex, myself, all the Anthrax dudes, all the Testament dudes. There's a lot of people.
Kind of a mix of everyone that was available on the cruise, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the only ones that came on specifically for it was myself and Portnoy.
Gotcha.
Everyone else was playing already.
And he's been the drummer all along.
Excuse me?
He's been the drummer all along.
Yeah, he's been my drummer in everything. Almost
hell of a drummer to have.
Yeah, no, Mike's awesome. He's like my brother, that dude. But so it was me and him that went on specifically for that. And it was basically how we pitched it to everyone was, everyone was pissed that Metal Masters was dead. We ended that on a high note, in California. It was Metal Masters 5 in Anaheim, and we sold the place out in like 2 minutes. What do we? I think it was like 2.5 minutes. The gig was awesome, and then all of a sudden it's dead. And that was because of me. But I explained it to them. If we do this, there's got to be certain parameters, again, that we have to meet. And we did the motorboat, which was awesome. And then we were circling around Cuba. I'll never forget this. There was a hurricane or something was going on. We couldn't dock somewhere. We were just circling around Cuba. And that's when the idea to come about, to get together to write original music and to see if we can make this a real band. And then a month later, Mike, myself, Dave, and Alex got together at Mike's house in Pennsylvania, and we wrote that first record in not even a week. And in under a year, we wrote, recorded, mixed, mastered, and signed a deal and released a record all under a year, with 25 plus musicians on it. Was
when you're writing, do you write with specific vocalists in mind for each song?
No, never did that. Yeah, that was a question we got asked a lot. And it was always, we just wrote for the sake of writing. And it was like, shit, you know who would sound awesome in this song? Chuck. Or, you know who, Randy from Lamb of God would kill it on. That's how we got the vocals. We just wrote for the sake of writing, and four of those songs, four of those tunes on that record were actually written in Lindenhurst.
Okay.
Gift of Pain, Let Darkness Fall, Pledge, and Can't Kill the Devil. Those
where in Lindenhurst?
At my parents' house.
Okay.
At
my parents' house. Yep. They were written there, and that's how old those songs were. Those songs, I brought them into fruition much later, but they were written there. But and we just kind of whirlwinded from there. MA has been awesome. We're getting together relatively soon to start working on the third record, which I could happily say. I've been doing a shit ton of side work and session work and all kinds of work. I'm actually working a project right now, which I can't say who, but from a very, very prominent Seattle band of the early 90s who we all have known and loved and who Muff Shaped Ducks have covered many, many times.
Okay.
Narrows it down.
Working with the guitar player of that band, which has been awesome. I'm working many different projects. I just was with Portnoy at Portnoy's house. We just did a different record together. So only two drummers I've been working with is Charlie Benanti and Mike Portnoy, I would say, for the better part of 10 years.
You're a little spoiled there.
I am. Because when I jam with other drummers, even in a studio or sessions, I'm just used to certain nuances. And
sure.
Of course.
Ears just get used to certain things.
And a couple of New Yorkers too. So I'm sure.
Yeah.
Same personality.
Charlie's personality is the best. He's that Bronx fuck you personality, but he's an unbelievable dude, as is Mike. Both are extremely close friends of mine. And so it's been an adventure with me, man. It's just my life has been one crazy roller coaster.
And now, so as far as touring with Metal Allegiance, is it always like headline shows, or are there festivals that you were on or opening slots?
Yeah, we did a bunch of festivals. I mean, we just did Rock in Rio in Brazil. I
saw some of those videos on YouTube and playing what's it like playing to that many people?
It's nuts. Yeah, it's out of control. I mean, it's England, Bloodstock. We did Loud Park in Japan. I mean,
it's a long way from the sports page.
A long way from the sports page. Yeah. Or Dukes. We used to play Dukes all the time in the back room.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Duke's Neutral Corner.
before it burned down. Yeah.
Burned down, right? Yeah, burned down. Yeah. But it's unbelievable. And I'll be playing a gig and I'll still look over and go, oh, what the fuck is going on, man? This is crazy. I still, I'm extremely thankful and grateful and humble that I get to do this, and I get to do it with people I grew up idolizing. I had these dudes' posters on my wall when I was a kid.
Yeah. And as you said, like, you get to work it around your family life as well, which is really unheard of for a lot of musicians. Like, they just kind of have to go with wherever they're booked. And
I can't tell you how many tours, and we've gotten to, I don't want to say fights, but arguments where I would just turn shit down. Like, I can't do it. Just can't do it. I won't, not that I won't do it, but now it's coming along. It's coming to the point now where my boys are older. And now I'm starting to get the train vamped back up right now. And next year, 2024, is 10 years of Metal Allegiance. Would be the 10th anniversary, which is shocking because it still seems so new.
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of cool shit planned that we're doing. One of them, I'm trying to talk the guys into doing a Long Island blowout, because Long Island is basically the business headquarters for MA. Alex, our guitar player, he's in Brooklyn. He lives in Brooklyn, and he's always hopping the train over. So anything business wise, everything was conducted here on the island. So I want to do a pretty massive blowout show here. Not Brooklyn, not Manhattan, but here. But we got a bunch of cool shit planned. We're going to be doing some festivals for sure in celebration of that first record. And 24 should be pretty busy with that stuff.
I think it's worth noting, like me and Anthony both musicians. We come from like the punk and hardcore scene on Long Island, where there's kind of like a built-in network of people to, book shows. So there's a lot to be said about someone who can make it as a musician outside of that world, yeah. without really playing those shows or, being around that scene of people.
It's tough, man. I tell you, it's tough business. You have to have a certain makeup. And you have to have a certain just a mentality to withstand it. And I couldn't imagine being a kid today. I couldn't imagine high school me trying to do this today. I wouldn't even know where to begin. And I wouldn't know how to do it. I'm wondering, do kids even get a van anymore? Do they even gig around town? Are they lugging gear around still? Because I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only way to make money nowadays is go out and sell merch. Record sales ain't doing it for most.
Well, merch. Well, record companies now, they dip into your merch, because
it's like a 360 thing. Yeah,
360s. Yeah.
Well, the streaming's got everyone by the balls right now. No one's making money. Even the record labels aren't making money off streaming. So if they could get you some of your touring money, if they could get some of your merch money, some of your meet and greet money, that'll constitute as your advance, your upfront advance for a record label. They tried that shit with the MA, and I was like, you're out of your fucking minds. We know what we're worth. We know what we've done. We know the music we write. You're not taking the logo. It all comes down to everyone wants the upfront money. How do we want 30, 40, 50, $100,000 up front. The label will give it to you, no problem, but they're taking literally a piece of everything and then some.
Yeah. And I'm sure you have some bargaining power just considering the pedigree of the guys who are in your band. Like
we did of 100%. Sure. Mike was great at that. Mike, he brought in Nuclear Blast, and it's, at the end of the day, we fuck around with him all the time now. He's in 38 different bands and he's doing this, he's doing that. But, Mike knows his worth, and as he should, he knows if he's cutting a record, there's going to be a certain clientele that's going to buy it, and same thing with Alex. Alex comes from a different world. He knows his worth, so, and I'm, grateful for those guys, and, it's been awesome. But, as far as Lindenhurst is concerned, this would not exist. This would not have shaped the way it shaped if it wasn't for that town. And I love it there. It's been a minute since I've been back.
Yeah. Well, bringing it back to Lindenhurst, do you want to do a little Lindenhurst knowledge?
Sure.
Right. So here, towards the end of every interview here, we do something we call Best and Worst of the Hearst, where we do a little bit of rapid fire questions where we ask you, what are some of the best and worst things you remember about Lindenhurst? We generally start off with pizza places. So to your recollection, what was the best pizza place in Lindenhurst?
Stella's? Pizza on Wellwood Avenue.
Okay. No longer there. Rest in peace, Stella's.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
There's nothing in that strip at all.
All right. My second best pizza would be Roma Pizza on Montauk Highway.
Yeah.
That is also ours.
That's what's up.
All right.
Worst pizza in Lindenhurst.
Oh, what's that shitty pizza place? My parents used to order from there. It was in the Sports Page shopping center.
Well, this is going to take me a minute to think of the name, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Pizza place.
I have friends that work there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When it used to be Island Farms, way before 7-Eleven, I don't even know if the pizza place is still there, but my parents used to order that. No. I'd come over and look, what the fuck? What is this? It's like ketchup on cardboard.
I think it's a Mexican restaurant now called Cebolinos.
Oh, yeah.
But no longer a pizza place. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Write in the comments if you know the name of that pizza place, because we can't fucking remember it.
Ketchup on cardboard.
Yeah. Best place to get alcohol underaged.
That depends. Dude, you're talking to the kings of that.
I know you were friends with Pat Gorman, so I know.
Well, it depends it depends where you were going.
Okay.
All right. So if you were going to the shoe, it was the Gulf Station up on 109 and Wellwood Avenue.
Gotcha.
If you were going to the junior high school or Lincoln Woods, it was 7-Eleven on Montauk Highway by Bauer Elementary School.
I am unfamiliar with Lincoln Woods. Please explain what that is.
Oh, kids don't do that anymore?
I don't, I know the shoe. I know the sneaky shoe. I know this shoe too. I know the vetter. I don't know Lincoln Woods.
We created the sneaky shoe. That was
there you go.
That was my class who created that. So there's the OG shoe, which was around.
It's like that industrial lot on the other side of 109 in Wellwood, right? Pine Lawn, whatever.
Where Pat grew up. Still kind of where Pat.
East Drive. That's Pat's house over there. Yeah. That's okay.
That's the original. Shoe 2 was up on 109, and
that's the place I'm talking about, behind like SK Speed or whatever.
Yeah, that was 2. And then there was the sneaky shoe.
And
I think I want to say Danielle Shore. She named it the sneaky shoe. If you know her. But yeah, so Lincoln Woods was it was a wooded area, kind of close to middle school, within walking distance.
Okay.
Of middle school. I don't know.
I think I know, like, but behind the motel over there on Montauk Highway, like between there and the American Legion.
Yeah, kind of between there. It was a wooded area.
Yep.
It was all
one of the many places you could probably hide a body in Lindenhurst.
100%. I mean, we had some blowouts in there, man. I can't believe kids don't go there, and it might even be developed now. I bet you there's houses and shit.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
But Lincoln Woods was a big hideout. So for each place we went to, there was a certain spot we would go to get what we needed to get.
There you go. Were you involved in the great beer heist from that restaurant over there by the canal?
I cannot speak of that.
Okay. Enough said.
All right. What else?
Best Chinese food.
Shopping center next to Roma Pizza. I forgot the name of the place. And I'm willing to bet that place is still there.
It is.
Next to Roma.
What else do we have? Best bagel store.
My favorite bagel store is not in Lindenhurst. It was in what I guess it's considered West Babylon. Was it Stuff a Bagel on Montauk Highway and Great Little East Neck Road next to Looney Tunes?
That is the Bagel Factory, I believe.
Bagel Factory.
There you go. Yeah, that's West Babylon.
Yeah. So that's where I always went.
Did you work at Looney Tunes?
I did. That was my first job.
Okay. I remember you working there.
Yeah, I worked there throughout college, basically.
There you go. Shout out Carl Jr.
Yeah.
Right on.
I could go on for hours with stories from Looney Tunes.
I guess the next one we do, it'll go back to the shoe or something like that, but we say favorite hangout spot.
I always had the most memorable that I can remember was probably just in the field at the middle school.
Okay.
Man, some shit went down there. Man, it was anarchy, when I was a senior, I would say my close-knit group was Pat, obviously.
Yeah.
Derek Springer, God rest his soul. He's no longer with us. He was one of my best friends growing up, Derek. I miss him. Kurt Schnatz, who I still talk to this day. Kurt, Danny Andreessen, Mike Hearns, all those dudes, man. We just the shit we did. Thank God social media was not around back then, because it would be it would be a different world. But I would say the middle school, man. The shoe was fun, but the problem with the shoe was the cops were always coming. They knew they just knew where to go. We were idiots thinking cops aren't going to show up. It was, they would always show up, but middle school, they rarely showed up for whatever reason.
Yeah. The field is big enough that you can kind of hide in plain sight there.
You could not only hide, it was pitch black. There wasn't a light.
Right.
Anywhere.
It's not like the field was lit up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. It was pitch black. I mean, the only light you had were the shadows or the reflection from the sky coming in.
And I also don't think it was turf back then. I think it was still like an actual field.
It was grass. It was grass.
Yeah,
But we would hang on the baseball side, where there used to be a side entrance on Herbert Street, I think was the name of it.
Right, the block the library and the American Legion are on and all that.
There was an entrance into the fieldway
Mm-hmm.
over that way. That's where we used to go.
That's like Lincoln Woodsy if you go up that way, I guess, right?
So you make the left in there to go to the middle school. You walk down a block.
And you make a right. Yeah.
Then you make a right.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lincoln Woods area is over there.
There
So
you go.
we would bounce back and forth. You know, and
We have to do like a shoe retrospective someday.
I want to know now if the Woods still exists.
Oh.
You know,
Again, I have not been over there in quite some time, but that maybe used to be where people would go to smoke marijuana.
I would think though that developers that's prime real estate now, right?
Every square inch in town that isn't a sump, yeah.
You would think that's built over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would say the middle school was my favorite place.
There you go.
We normally ask what your favorite band from Lindenhurst is, but I'm just going to open up to like Long Island bands and Long Island musicians. Like, who inspires you?
Portnoy for one,
obviously, yeah.
Huge. I mean, this fact that I've done as many records with him is mind blowing because even when I was in high school, he was on. I mean, the '90s, he was in his peak on all the drum. You know, back when magazines were relevant.
Modern Drummer, everything, yeah.
Yeah,
every magazine. Yeah.
You play drum.
I don't know how it happened, but it seems like Lindenhurst more than anywhere else I meet, there's a huge contingent of Dream Theater fans. Man, maybe it's just amongst our group of friends, but I mean, we were all into Dream Theater then, and other people I knew would be like, who? I'd be like, you don't know these? They're like the best fucking musicians in the world.
Yeah, we were the hardcore kids who got into prog for a minute. Because
Dream Theater's weird, man. It's a weird, like they go from a metal band, one record, to a prog band, to trying to be pop, to, which is great, you know?
Yeah.
Which is great. I didn't get into them until my early college years. My older brother was huge back in the 90s. Huge.
That would make sense because that's when Scenes from a Memory probably came out, and that's the one that got me into it. And then I went back from there. Yeah,
he was a huge. I remember in the '90s, man. He was always going to see Dream Theater on whatever tour they were on. Huge Dream Theater fan, and he still didn't believe it when I was playing with Mike when and all that shit. He's like, "What?" You know. But I would say them, and I would also say Twisted Sister, man. You know. Love him or hate him, there is no front man like Dee Schneider. And
not at all. Yeah.
When you're putting on a show, I mean, Twisted's great, you know, and, you know, I got to know those guys really well. I was actually very close to AJ, the drummer, and he's no longer.
Mike's in Twisted Sister now, right?
Well, he's not.
He plays with them, but
he, as he puts it, he's a temporary replacement for AJ. He's just
gotcha.
Helping them out, but they're retired now. I love Silent Majority.
Okay,
you know, back in my day, the P-Whack was still a thing.
Yeah.
Saw a shit ton of bands there. You know, back in the '90s at the P-Whack. You know, they obviously played there. Mind Over Matter. You know, a lot of those early hardcore bands I loved. You know, definitely into that. So I was all over the place musically, man. You know, more so now than then. You know, I've always been jazz, blues, Motown, Slayer, Exodus, Stevie Wonder, John Coltrane.
Yeah,
it's the way to be.
Everything comes from the same place. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. But I would say Silent Majority had definitely a huge impact to see a band that can actually make it from Lindenhurst.
Mm-hmm. And they rep the town hard. Yeah.
They repped it, you know, VOD too. VOD back then, you know, they got big for a minute there. You know, they definitely made some noise, VOD.
Roadrunner Records, you know.
Yeah, Roadrunner picked them up.
Ozfest and all that, yeah.
And that was huge for Long Island. Again, for a local hardcore Long Island band, it was huge. You know, and to see those bands able to do that, is, you know, pretty unbelievable. You know, Glass Jaw too. Glass Jaw is another one.
Still going.
I'm showing my age now.
Okay, before we wrap up, tell us the story about your yearbook photo.
Yearbook photo. Yes. So if you notice in my yearbook photo, I won't point it out. I look slightly pissed off, and my bow tie's crooked. And I haven't seen this photo probably since I took it, or since the yearbook came out. So 30, however many years. But I remember the photographer kept petting me. He was petting my shoulder. He was petting me. I was like, dude, stop petting me. And he just kept. I'm like, I remember I was like, you touch me one more fucking time, I threatened the photographer, right? And then as I threatened him, he took the photo, bow tie's crooked, and I had this look in my face. That's the photo used in the yearbook.
Gotcha.
So you could show it here for funny things, but
right.
It was pretty funny though.
You could send us a better back in the day pic for your thumbnail.
Yeah, I'll never forget that though. I remember my parents got the yearbook, was so excited that I actually did graduate, and just seeing that photo, my dad smacked me in the back of the head. But that was shit. Yeah, man, I miss those days, man. Definitely fun times, and this interview is gonna make me reach out to a bunch of them tonight now, just to check in and say hey.
Very cool.
Quickly, this was next to me, but the 25th anniversary reissue of the Silent Majority LP right here. So
it's a great record right there.
Hell yeah.
2 copies.
It's funny. They're playing, I think, coming up. I saw their reunion shows. It was a few years ago. They played at what was that club?
Revolution.
I went to those
too. Yep. Yeah.
I went to those two. Which that place was packed. I mean, packed. And then they're playing again coming up soon, I think, somewhere in Brooklyn, I believe.
They're playing in Brooklyn, and they're playing a VFW hall that you had to go wait online to get tickets at a bar in Lindenhurst to go. Because they don't want people. Yeah, they don't want too many people showing up to the show the day of the show. So,
I mean,
250 kids waited online on a Sunday morning outside of Ruby Soho's, which used to be the Oasis. If you remember the Oasis of Lindenhurst.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
They're still doing it right, man. And that's it's funny. That's a band, and if you look at their singer, Tommy, again, family dude, puts his kids first.
Yep.
I kind of relate with him, because if you look at where the trend Silent Majority was going, they were just going up, 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 and then whatever happened. But he's also doing great in life, and he puts his family first.
Yep.
Which is me. I respect that.
Admirable. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And I love that they're doing that. And what we do need is a Silent Majority, VOD, Glassjaw, Mind Over Matter gig. All of them on one bill. That's what the world needs.
Well, if anyone can make it happen, it's you.
I'll just go and watch that, man.
Cool. So I guess that brings us to our closing question. If you could describe Lindenhurst to somebody who's never been there, what would you tell them?
Have thick skin. Have very thick skin. Lindenhurst, growing up there is different than moving there. If you're a kid or a teenager going into Lindenhurst, you're doomed. And not because of anything bad, it's because of the makeup of the people. And again, it's the no bullshit. It's the black and white. It's that whatever that shit that runs through our blood that comes from there. You need to have thick skin, and you need to be able to work your ass off to get what you want to get, and nothing ever is going to be handed to you, especially coming from that town. So I always tell my friends all the time, you need to have thick fucking skin, man, to live there, and to grow up there. So, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And to this day, as much as I tell my kids, I wish I didn't fuck around in school. I do thank Radiohead, because they really did put me on a path to, I live, in a nice home. I live, I do all right in life, and I'm thankful for what I have and humble and grateful for the dudes I get to play with and for the career I have in the music business. And that all circles back to Lindenhurst. It's, I can't say that enough. It really does circle back to that mentality, to that, we're all a little, fucked up in the head, I think. And I really do think it comes down to that.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, Mark, thanks so much for joining us. This was awesome.
Yeah, man. Truly a pleasure.
Yeah, man. You guys need anything, you know where to find me. When MA does that gig on the island next year, I will make sure you and whoever else you want to go has whatever they need set up for that.
Awesome.
And
Can't wait.
I look forward to it. Thank you, guys.
Nothing ever changes and nothing ever should.